Hello, welcome. I'm on a bit of a unusual spot this morning, so I'm traveling for the next week or so plus. So we'll see what happens. Schedule might be a little bit awkward. I might be broadcasting at weird times. I might be doing videos like live style instead of trying to pre-record something. I might do a lot more private videos like this that we'll just see how it goes, but maybe just keep it private or delete it after it's done. And part of my travel plans include that I tried to queue up a few posts ahead of time. So some of them may be timely, some may not. But the post from today, let me walk through this briefly while we wait for people to join. Although already there were like 5, 6 people who joined and I already lost all of you. Nice to see all of you here this morning. I put this up with like no notice, so impressive. Raise a mug of coffee or whatever you're drinking to everyone here. Feel free to drop in the comments anything you'd like to talk about. I was just planning on going over the guest post by Diligent Deer, which I thought Diligent Deer actually reached out to me and was just asking, hey, could you do anything to like quote any content or research in your work? And I said, oh, hey, Jan, nice to see you. Diligent Deer said, would you like to read through this, comment on it? And I was blown away by the depth of analysis that he'd performed, or she. I don't know if Deer is male or female, but he or she had a tremendous amount of analysis on the Curve ecosystem and projections. And I often get a lot of people asking if Curve is a good buy, what's the price, what's going to happen, and of course, nothing is financial advice here. We have no way of knowing what the Curve price is going to do because even if you're a brilliant technical analyst, you're not going to be able to forecast certain trends. Like no one was able to forecast COVID, wars in Ukraine, Fed macro monetary policy. Like that stuff's not, I don't believe, viewable by technical analysis. But what the author did in this article was go through a bunch of kind of interesting scenarios. So I wanted to walk through some of it because it's very dense. I mean, when Diligent Deer asked if I could include this in the article, just a few quotes here or there, I basically said this is good enough and our community is smart enough that they're really gonna like diving into this post because there's such a wealth of detail in it. So reading through this, for example, you can see they produce this risk-reward matrix for all possible actions on Curve Finance, like what you might be able to get if you're not supplying liquidity versus if you are supplying liquidity. And they have a complete diagram of this Curve flywheel. So it really did a bunch of work. You can see why he or she goes by the nickname of Diligent Deer, because it's very diligent, the amount of work that is being done. And if you notice on this chart here, they have these arrows for what is going up, what's going to down as different parts of the flywheel accrue value. So all this is sort of burying the claim, which is that the Curve price is going to be able to fuel a system where LPs are rewarded with noticeable returns on their provided liquidity in spite of increasing pool TVL. So essentially they're trying to find what's the value of Curve that is going to need to hit in order for LPs to be able to be rewarded with solid enough returns that we're going to see this kind of not a death spiral, but a virtuous growth where increasing TVL might happen and Curve still is able to kind of make LPs enough money that they keep LPing back into the pool. Billy Welch, like the laid back style. Thank you. I'm for those who missed the beginning, I'm on not quite vacation. I'm just looking over my dog sitting for my parents while they're away. And as a result, I am in a different environment. Don't have all my recording stuff, so that's fine. It is what it is. But I did manage to think to bring a microphone and a computer, so I'd like to be able to keep some kind of conversation going. But it's going to be a bit wacky over the next week or so. So diving into this analysis here, they are essentially forecasting 5 different factors that would need to be required to keep constant APR. In other words, if you want there's 2 methods of rewards you get as an LP. There's the transaction fees and there's the token rewards. And if the claim being that if you want to kind of have this kind of constant rewards that keep people depositing, you'll need to be able to nail forecast TVL growth, basically guess what the total volume locked on curve might look like, forecast trading volumes, take a look over the emission schedule. That doesn't require any forecasting because that's set. Look at the approximation of curve trade fees and combine all this to compute a guess for what the curve price would look like. So there's a lot of assumptions from here on out. At this point, you can look at one of the things I think they do very good in this analysis is kind of look at the correlations and do a really good job of presenting their assumptions for what these things might be. And they also add in this cyclicality model. But when they're forecasting curve TVL, they say that this is really highly correlated with DeFi total volume locked. And DeFi total volume locked is also highly correlated with Bitcoin price. So let's just forecast Bitcoin price. And there's been a ton of people who have done this. And you can see they add in some cyclicality to it and look at what the Bitcoin price trend might be. And based on that, they provide some raw assumptions for what curve TVL might look like. And essentially this is saying today Bitcoin price is around, when this was done, around 27,000. Of course, it's far lower than that now. This should equate to 1.46 times 10 to the 11th in DeFi TVL, which is about what we see. Based on this, the claim is going to be in a year from now, Bitcoin price might be around 40K and TVL might have doubled in DeFi. And here is where like this is all guesswork and it's like impossible to forecast in the future. But I would probably guess that DeFi TVL might go up a little faster than this. Tough to say. But I'm just basing this on the fact that we saw kind of a massive cratering of DeFi TVL. But I think it'll restore once the kind of macro stuff calms down. So I'd like to sort of revisit these assumptions and see what they look like after macro kind of stops like wreaking havoc on all the markets. Because once that happens, I think we're going to see like a much more like a lot of this volume that's been sitting on the sidelines flow back in. And we might well see that DeFi TVL gets back to so 2 to 3 times where it is, which would instantly, if then the growth kind of continued at this pace, it would set the much higher baseline. But like this, for example, says that the Bitcoin price is going to be 178K by 2027. Like I'd also bet the Bitcoin price hits 100K much sooner than that. Like this doesn't have it hit passing 100K till 2026. Whereas I actually think that we might have hit 100K this year had we not seen all the macro stuff. But again, this is all guesswork, and like really kudos to Diligent Deer for laying out the assumptions, because you need to establish a baseline so people can argue from it. And everyone knows that modeling and forecasting the future is like impossible. But based on this assumptions, it comes up with possible curve TVL, and it matches pretty well with the data. So we see that curve would have gone a bit up like this, and curve actually was like much higher and then collapsed due to the DeFi summer collapse, but the forecasts come right in the middle. So it's, if nothing else, like it's kind of within the range of possibility. And then there's some work on forecasting trading volume, which is really interesting stuff. And arguably like under, I would say that arguably that this is under appreciated, because in, we'll go ahead and get to this right now. So there's a bunch of different ways of forecasting trading volume. And an emission schedule set, so we don't have to do anything. But when they come up with this price computation, they essentially say the trading fees have an almost negligible impact because it's so small. And this is the part that I wouldn't dispute this, because certainly today this is an issue. But if you notice, like a lot of the curve team, like Michael in particular, is not so much focused on this curve emissions or the curve price, but heavily focused on trading. Because this is really curve's ultimate like value prop. Like if you ask me, it all boils down to the fact that every curve has the capability of earning money through trading fees. And Curve, as we've seen, is the best trading platform in terms of the efficiency, slippage, price. Maybe not for small value trades, because being able to use Curve v2 pools do have a hefty gas price. But even that being said, if you are doing heavy amounts of Curve, if you have heavy amounts of Curve v2 pools out there, and if aggregators get extremely efficient, they're going to be capturing as many of these Curve pools in their system as possible, because they'll be offering the best rates. And as a result, you should expect to see that Curve trading volume massively increase. So for example, if Curve successfully eats all the Uniswap's volume, which in my opinion it's likely to, but there are a lot of Uniswap fans who would argue the opposite, and the evidence is with them so far because people are still using Uniswap even if it loses them money. So obviously the evidence is that in the revealed preference of traders, they prefer using Uniswap. But my contention is that these trading fees are ultimately going to become a much bigger portion of Curve's value prop. And as a result, like we might see, we'd have to see what happened to this analysis if Curve volume did manage to start eating Uniswap. And this is one of those things that I don't think shows up on charts. In particular, you get some of these spike days that are a little bit tough. But where a lot of this comes from is not something that can be seen with technical analysis, but simply are the various aggregators going to efficiently index Curve? Because there's a lot of evidence that they're not. Like, for example, one of the, I won't mention names, but one of the aggregators out there, someone was looking at trying to move from 3CRV, 3Curve, 3Pool token, to one of the underlying tokens. And the most efficient way to do this would just be to unwrap it. That's like almost free. You get a really good rate. And what you actually see happen is that they went through 2 different hops on Curve to get to the final token. So it went from 3Curve to another like random coin that was paired with 3Curve. And then from that random coin, it went from there to the underlying coin, which was kind of like a ridiculous routing. Like 2 expensive gas transactions when you could have done it for 1. So this is not really like the fault necessarily of some of these aggregators, because it's really tough. Curve is really complicated. There's a lot of potential routes. So there is a lot of work that's being done in terms of efficiency and optimizing this. But in theory, Curve is the most efficient. And if all these aggregators are picking it up, then it's going to be doing pretty good. But that being said, like, still really interesting to look at like forecasts of what might happen. Again, emissions, we know that what that is. And what this all boils down to is what would the price of Curve actually be? The minimum required price in order for it to maintain the kind of values. And they come up with this with a few different approximation of trading fees, but they all end up being about the same because the trading fees are such a small part of this model. And what it gets us to is that in about a year's time, it'll be back to where it was a few months ago, as in about $4. The year after that, it'll be at 14, 22, 44, 96. So it's possible, who knows? It's tough to really predict the future. But these are kind of like interesting guesses of where the Curve price might be. Again, none of this price advice. This is just one way of possibly modeling and a useful educational exercise for how you might model price action in the future. And then finally, they attack this question from the idea of like, what is this going to have on Convex? Because, of course, a lot of people are, especially the Convex holders, are feeling pretty sad at the moment. But they go through some discussion of what the effects on Convex are, describing it as like a pseudo LP. So it works like a normal LP on Curve, but it plays on the fact that a lot of liquidity providers don't boost their rewards on Curve. So Convex has a lot of value. Their takeaway, which I'd agree with, is that one of the best things that Convex can do is add more mechanisms to create value around Convex. For example, like their Frax integration. And here this would probably run into some issues in that some people have argued that Convex is, for example, overpaid for winning the Curve Wars, and as a result, it doesn't have the capability of using its token to incentivize creating more value for other ecosystems. But they've, of course, done a really big integration with Frax lately. There's been a bunch of new Frax pools added. So I think Convex is doing really cool stuff, but your mileage may vary. At any rate, I've been yakking on, and there's like not many questions, although getting 8 concurrent viewers with very little marketing, this is pretty exciting stuff. So nice to see all of you here. I'm curious if you have any questions about any piece of this. Maybe it's because I was talking with some social media influencers, and they suggested that I do not lock the account based on like what I'm trying to do with it. So based on that, I unlocked the account this morning, so maybe more people saw the article. But no, it doesn't seem as if there's many questions. So given that I'm probably liable to do a lot more of these live streams this week, we'll just go ahead and end it now. I don't think I said anything that got in trouble, so we'll probably leave this up so people can watch it afterwards. But please, planning on doing a few more of these casual style live streams. So come armed with questions, stump me, ask me anything. particular if you want to talk about Viper and some of the technical development. I've been hard at work on getting the next Viper tutorials out there. GM, Crypto Storytime. I need to be able to RT me. Check again. I unlocked the account, Phoenix of the Bera, so you should be capable of retweeting me now. Now, that being said, note that my account is shadow banned because Twitter, for whatever reason, has decided that, probably due to my advocacy of freeing developers who are jailed for writing open source software, they have decided to shadow ban my account. So if you retweet my account, that's great, but the only people who will be able to see it are people who are already following me. If you are not following me, you don't get to see retweets. So far better than retweets is if you can actually just write your own separate tweet and link to my article or whatever you're trying to link to, because that's the only way you can get it spread. Like, we're going to see this, like, I mean, I actually think that this is like I see this as a great opportunity for all of you, because to date, I've been basically like stealing all of my own karma, because I'll write a post and then if it's good, like, it'll get a lot of likes, it'll get a lot of retweets. But now I can't really get, or I don't get any value from these retweets or likes, but you can. So you can actually see this kind of cool effect where if you just copy my thread verbatim, I'll retweet it and I'll spread it because that's gets the word out there better. If you write your own separate thread for it, it might actually do much better because more people will see it, more eyeballs on it, and more traffic to it. So you can steal my karma and my likes, and I think this is actually a good thing for the community because I don't need more likes, I don't need more karma. Like, that account is dead. Basically, this account is basically now worthless. So there's no reason for me to try and expand value to it. But I'd be more than happy to, like, donate this value of this account to the broader community. I am on Lens, yes. Jan O'Bladen says, in addition to asking if I'm on Lens, thanks me, you're welcome. And digesting it's going to write some questions in the comments. Yeah, Diligent Deer, I'm sure, will be more than happy to review this because obviously Diligent Deer has a lot more comments on this. But do, if you want to engage with me on social media, like, do not do it on Twitter. Lens is great. Lens is basically Twitter, except they are not being run by people who have very questionable and seemingly arbitrary standards for how they are moderating content. So head over to Lens. Like, anyone who tags me or pings me on Lens, I'm going to do everything I can to promote as much as possible. So let's start the Lens party. Like, that's where the action is. That's where the puck is moving towards. Crypto Storytime wants to interview me. Well, go ahead and start now, or shoot me a note and let's make it happen. Because I'd previously been pretty opposed to interview requests, but given that, like, my social media is getting stamped out, I kind of need to step it up in other fronts. So I think better get good at doing interviews and talking with people, because I have to learn sometime. So thank you all. Always great chatting with you. Do come armed with questions like these, because I want to, like, live streaming, like anything else, is a skill. And now that I'm getting better, it took me like 2 years, but I can actually finally do a 1-minute video coherently. Now I need to get better at, like, this kind of, like, live improvisational chatting with people. And we can, I think if we get this, like, live stream format nailed, I think we can make it really big and really fun. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to catch you all tomorrow.